in this exhibit where I could help people really feel what it felt like to experience like global warming and climate change like in real time. So frigid cold and like heat and being on fire.
All right, Dr. Castro. So we've now explained to the audience what embodied sound is and how it's very uniquely different than all these other audio solutions out there. I know that one core reason why we had to build this technology was due to your PhD dissertation project.
Insane project.
Where you were really trying to showcase the power of multimodal experiences, combining multiple senses, and you looked at everything out there, and that kind of led us to saying we need to build this future of audio, since you know from your own personal experience that it's possible. And powerful. So would love to learn a little bit more about how did we first apply embodied sound technology for your specific use case, and what did that open our eyes to?
Necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Yeah.
And it was definitely, I originally was pitching this project, I pitched the multimodal portion of this project because of the fact that I was like, hey, it would be so cool to show people what I'm talking about saying, hey, like, stuff like, at the time we were using a subpack as a research tool. And I was like, this is so cool. But, and people all thought it was cool. But I was like, hey, but if only this went the full frequency range, that I know that can be so much more detailed and tangible. And but no one could understand what that was like. No one could even conceive of like what that might be like. And so I said, okay, what's the best way that I could show somebody what this feels like? And I said, okay, you know what? I'll compose a piece. I'll show the details of haptics and tactile across a multitude of different frequency ranges, from the acoustic side of it that it naturally produces, all the way down to the high range tactile, which is very detailed components, changing timbres of it in that high frequency range, and then going all the way down and having some stuff going. I'll compose a piece and I'll build this thing so that way people can really get as many pieces of themselves touching and exposed to this type of vibro-tactile and vibro-acoustic experience when it's merged together, and get that full impact of multimodality at the same time. And I'll pair it with a visual image as well. I want to have people be as immersed as possible. And the idea was this projection mapped surround screen with a floor that people would sit on, all of it custom made. And I knew how to do none of it because I was a musician and I did not know how to build a damn thing. I did not know how to projection map. I didn't know how to engineer anything. So this was and a
5-week deadline to do it too.
To be fair, the idea was there beforehand.
Execution.
But yeah, we started executing pretty damn close to the actual date of the thing. But hey, necessity is the mother of invention. I'll always go back to that because we had to figure out how to do it in 5 weeks. So at this point, we had already kind of tried out big transducer, little transducer, bigger transducer, littler transducer. Where was the sweet spot between the two of them? And what is the performance that we can get out of this? And so the Aurora Project, Aurora itself was an extension of a project that I did with Professor Joan Sharma from CSU Fresno. She had done this project called Draw the Line. It was very immersive and you could feel like you were there. I want to see if I could use multimodality to be able to extend that feeling that I had in her exhibit, in this exhibit, where I could help people really feel what it felt like to experience like global warming and climate change like in real time. So frigid cold and like heat and being on fire. And so this was the perfect opportunity to explore exactly that. So I composed the piece, everything was already set, and in order to in order to experience the piece, we had to take our embodied sound research project and try to put it together into a few different modules that we could actually put on the back of these walls that were going to be surrounding everybody. So there were a couple wall panels this way and a couple wall panels this way. And so that way, and everybody sat on a custom-made flooring piece in the middle. We had transducers on the floors on each panel. So everybody sat on a series of transducers that both had stereo and a wide range. And then we had a full, what we now call Resonance Core, was basically on every other wall panel surrounding people. So not only did we have full frequency vibrotactile, you could actually lean in and touch and feel what was happening on the screen and also from the audio, but it was happening around you. So you had this kind of surround sound effect that also had this internal embodied channel to begin with. So as it started off very slow and kind of gentle, it gets really raucous and scary, and it happens, all the spatial aspects come around and through you, and it's like fire everywhere. It's so cool. but it only comes through because certain aspects of the songs are otherwise inaudible on smaller speakers.
Yep.
Because you need to have something that's tactile to portray something that soft, that low, or even at a higher frequency, but that gently and that tactile.
Yep.
And so it's like literally someone tapping you across the floor, or someone tapping you around the room, and you can't hear it otherwise, but you can feel it.
Mm-hmm. So by leveraging our research around embodied sound, it allowed us to create a brand new content piece and how it gets consumed. But I think the other part that it opened our eyes to was what other avenues around our world can we now open or widen the amount of information or experiences you can have, because you are now getting access to all this auditory information. Because prior to this, it was a hypothesis for you, right? Like, it's a hypothesis that I can bring this to life by combining all these different senses together. But now that we have successfully done that, we can understand, okay, cool, it applied to a custom content piece, but it can apply to real world activities, it can apply to virtual reality, it can apply to all these various use cases. So I guess the question for you is, where do you think the future of embodied sound now lies due to you being able to take it from research, apply it, and now understanding where it can lead to?
That's a good question. Knowing the power of it, knowing the power of multimodality, knowing the power of combining two senses together and putting it forward, knowing the power of flexibility of being able to say any sound at any location, at any frequency, I know that my end user will be able to experience it. Then that opens up the world of creative possibilities where I don't have to now play the loudness war game as a music producer and as an engineer. I can now use subtlety as a compositional technique, as a compositional tool. I can use spatiality in a different way because I don't have to rely on spatial information, all of my information coming spatially. I can have some of my information, my core information, come from the person and actually express themselves. That's the closeness that I want them to feel in my content piece. And then I can use spatiality to portray an atmosphere or ambiance instead of being where all the sound comes from, right? When you like, if I'm talking, I'm not hearing myself coming from the outside. I hear it coming from myself. And so if I want to hear what the inner monologue of somebody is, I want that to feel like as if it's coming from myself as well. That just makes sense. So these things that you couldn't do before is now suddenly a possibility because you have no frequency and you have no spatial limitations to be able to create new content pieces. And that we've seen now with working with the NBA and working with different partners, that people are coming up with all sorts of amazing solutions that just aren't possible without it.
Awesome. Well, once again, excited to keep building embodied sound, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the different use cases we applied to.
Likewise.